Wiley, who has been found for the past 13 years completely isolated, does not know how to talk, does not know how to do anything, can't chew, she still has all of her baby teeth at 13 years old, and she has been isolated in a pretty much a daylightless, furnitureless, stimulus-less room for the past 13 years of her life, her entire life, while her family lived outside of that room. So she lived with the family, but she was trapped in that room. Insanity. So all across the world, doctors are freaking out. Like, let me give you the rundown. So it all starts with Genie Wiley's parents. In order to understand this isolation, you gotta understand who the fork put her in this isolation. So her dad's name is Clark Wiley, and he is a very interesting character. He wasn't actually born with the name Clark Wiley. I don't know what his birth name was, but he hated that name. It was a very girly name, he said, and he got bullied for it all the time. Now, his dad pretty much wasn't around, and his mom, she was like running a brothel, so she wasn't around either. He was completely left to his own devices, left all alone, and finally CPS was like, that's not cool. So they kept putting him in foster care. He was bouncing around back and forth from different foster cares, and he started growing this huge resentment towards his mom. Like, how dare you? You abandoned me, I'm in foster care, and you named me a girly name. Like, I'm really upset by this. Like, he was pissed. So finally, he grows up, he's an adult, and then he starts connecting with his mom again, and it started developing this really unhealthy attachment to his own mom, Clark Wiley, and just like really obsessed with her, it seems like. So they become close, and he starts looking for a girlfriend. He's like, okay, I need to start, making my own family and making shit happen now. So he meets Irene, who is now Genie Wiley's mom, right? So this is how they get married. And she's a lot younger than Clark. She actually has some neurological damage. I'm not exactly sure what it was, but she had this traumatic head injury as a kid, and she was visually impaired in her left eye, and every single day it was getting worse. So her vision every single day was getting worse. So she meets Clark Wiley, they get married, and it is just right off the bat the worst marriage ever. He is abusive, he's an alcoholic, he hits her nonstop, and because he's hitting her nonstop, a lot of the times on her head, her vision is getting worse and worse. Her conditions are getting worse and worse. Now, on top of that, because she's getting pretty much partially blind, she's depending on her abusive husband. This is just like a recipe for a disaster, right? And it's not Irene's fault, but it's a recipe for a disaster. So they keep dating, and she gets pregnant. Now, here's the thing with Clark. He hates babies. He thinks they're noisy. He thinks they're loud. He thinks they're useless. So he gets mad at her, and he starts beating her while she's pregnant. So she gives birth to this healthy baby, and that baby